Hello there, my name is Chris Wade from the People and Places Partnership. In this presentation today, I'm going to tell you about how we're helping to create a forward framework, a plan for revitalising Sherburn and Elmet Village Centre. We're doing this work on behalf of Selby District Council, and we're working with the Community Trust, with the Business Network Group, with Sherburn and Elmet Parish Council. A copy of this presentation is downloadable using the link shown at the bottom of this slide, where you can also find other resources, and there's the opportunity for you to share your comments or to email them to us in response to a number of prompts that you'll see throughout this presentation. This plan or forward framework is put together following a process that we helped devise nationally on behalf of the Local Government Association, and you can find the link to more information about this process at the bottom of this slide. On our website, you'll find links to national work that we're doing looking at how town centres can respond to the COVID-19 crisis, including a downloadable checklist for reopening town and village centres. There are three elements to the forward framework process and to this presentation. I'm going to start by briefly talking about how we gathered evidence to understand the issues facing the village. Last year, we undertook a detailed survey of the village centre, measuring key performance indicators and, importantly, asking every business in the village their opinions, and 78% of us gave the responses. And we also gathered the views of 683 people who are used to regularly using the village. Here are some headline findings, although we'll be peppering other findings throughout the remainder of this presentation. You can see the businesses do like many aspects of being based within the village. They value most of all the ability to serve local customers. They value the leisure facilities provided by cafes, pubs and restaurants. They like the look of the village, and they like the way people are already working together to improve it and to promote it. Customers like Sherburn and Elmet Village Centre because it's a convenient place. It's a good place to pick up groceries, including from town centre supermarkets. It's easy to walk around. There's a high quality of customer service, and a lot of that will come from the independent shops. They feel it's clean and it offers good value for money. If we look briefly at what town centre users said are the things they would most like to see change in the village centre, you can see those issues really divide into two sets. Ones are really about how people get into and around the village. So that's talking about traffic, it's talking to a certain extent about transport, and it's talking about making sure the parking needs are flexible enough to meet their requirements. The other thing it's talking then is about what people use the village for and what they know about it. And that's, they see real value in improving its already good restaurant and cafe offer, improving the retail and improving the amenities and other services that are there for them to enjoy. I just want to pause now and ask you to reflect and perhaps share your thoughts with us on how significant an impact do you think the COVID-19 crisis is having on those perceptions and those priorities for the village centre? And is it something you think we need to ask more questions and learn about how things have changed? You can share your comments either if you're part of the Town Council, the Community Trust or the Business Network by talking within those organisations, or I said earlier, you can leave comments or email them to us using the link to our website, which will also be shown later on at the end of this presentation. The planning process in putting together a town team through this process we call a forward framework, that's about focusing on the actions, the things you want to improve that will address the issues we talked about, but it's also about putting the team in place and the organisation in place and how that works. And we're going to concentrate a little bit on that, because revitalising the village has to be built on those very firm foundations that get everybody rowing in the same direction. There are many ways a team can come together to help revitalise a village centre. Here are some suggestions that you can find more information about using the link to our national resources. But let's focus a little bit now on how things may come together and what might be the themes of working together to revitalise this village that you care about. We're suggesting that groups may want to come together around two themes to work to improve the long-term future of Sherburn and Elmet Village Centre. The first theme and working group is about physical change. It's about improving how people move into and around the village centre. The second is about supporting businesses. It's about strengthening the identity, promoting the village centre and embracing digital development. To make those two groups work together, we're suggesting they're supported by a coordinating and communication group, which is about getting everybody rowing in the same direction and clearly and positively promoting the progress to partners, to wider groups and across the wider community. So our second pause, we're asking you to reflect on what you think about we're suggesting, is about the way that coordination and communication group might work. We see this as a small hands-on supporting group, not leading but helping oil the wheels, if you like. It will coordinate across organisations, working groups and projects, including funding sources that will hopefully coming from a range of bodies, and then communicating process so the partnership works, so wider stakeholders works, so the community is aware of what's going on. And we're suggesting that it will have a limited membership, and that will include local councils, perhaps a community trust and the business work, and it could meet virtually in this new world that we're all inhabiting for quick hands-on catch-ups. I'm now going to talk a little bit about what those other two delivery-based working groups may focus on and how we go about turning around the prospects of the village centre. If you want to read more about this, you can also download a summary document from the page on our website, which tells you more about some of the things I'm going to cover in terms of the research findings and where we're going forward. And you can also find a link to a very detailed report, which is hosted on the District Council's website. This is a checklist taken from the national guidance that we prepared, which just shows you all the issues you need to keep your eye on if you're going to improve the long-term prospects for a place. And it's something to bear in mind as things go forward and keep checking how the village is progressing. And it's something we'll draw on in terms of those themes under function when we're looking at the composition of the proposed working groups in Sherburn. That summary report and the working groups I'm going to talk to you about now are based on the premise that we did the work, we understand the issues, and we keep focusing on how we're going to improve those. And you can see some of those key issues summarized in the document. This page, taken from the summary document, I think summarized the broad approach that we want to take to improve Sherburn. It's about changing the look and changing the feel of the place. So it's creating a more welcoming centre, and we're doing that by physically improving the village, but also making it a social hub, making people feel very positive about the place. So the first thing they think about in an evening, during a weekend, where shall we go? Let's pop into the village. So there's our first theme, first working group, building on improvements that have already happened to focus on how the village can grow sustainably, how we can travel in to enjoy it, and how we can get around. So if you're interested in that part of the work, listen carefully now, because there may be a role for you and your organisation in helping that happen. And we're suggesting the work of that first group, that first theme, is about making the village centre more accessible and appealing to move around. And to do that, we need to bring together the areas from that checklist, you remember, of planning and property, parking, travel and access, and the streetscape and the public places, and how we can improve them. Here I'm just flagging up some of the data from the surveys that relates to this area. One of the things it shows, and that's common in towns and villages all around the country, is that customers are looking to see some modest improvements in perhaps the way parking is used, in terms of the flexibility for people to park when they want, where they want. It is a village you can park, but we need to drill down and understand why it's such a priority of people that use the village at this moment to improve that parking and improve its flexibility. The suggestion from this data comparing our spot check of parking availability in Sherburn to what we find typically across towns and villages across the country, it may be it's that on-street parking, that ability that people feel they need to have to park outside businesses that they want to visit. That may be the thing that's causing the concern. More than ever, we need to embrace active travel. That's how we access places through walking and cycling in healthy ways. And Sherburn is already the focus for exciting research and studies to see how we can improve the cycling and walking networks across the village, into the village, and connecting to the railway station. Just drilling down a little bit on what people feel about the physical attractiveness of the place at the moment and how they get around it. They feel it's convenient and it's easy to walk around. A little less positive about its cleanliness and physical appearance, but still broadly positive. What we do find is that there's a low footfall and uneven flow of people around different parts of the village, and so maybe we need to look how we get more people in and then move them around that village that people are already saying is easy to walk around, but for whatever reason they're not journeying all the way around it. You may need to crook your neck to see this slide and certainly peer at the detail. But what it demonstrates is that plans are already afoot to improve the east side of Low Street to match the improvements that have already gone ahead on the west side. And so that's part of improving the long-term look and movement around the village. So my third place to pause in this presentation is to ask you what you think about your thoughts on this theme and the role and representation of this working group. Its role is about seeing that plans are developed and delivered to improve the physical appearance of the village and how people can move into and around it. And I'm suggesting that organisations used to looking at the long term, so the county, district, town council, but I'm interested to hear about community and special interest groups, whether that's residents groups, interested in how they access the village, or special interest groups such as cycling, what they may feel they'd like to contribute to those themes and to those working groups. So now we move on to take a look at the second theme and who we might want to involve and how that might want to work to see how we can improve the feel of the village. The diversity of businesses that are there, how people know about their services, how other amenities are enhanced and strengthened, and how we embrace digital, both in terms of the infrastructure, how it works, but also the services that are available through businesses so that people know what's going on in the village. This theme and its working group will pull together 3 other areas from our checklist: about place branding and marketing, about business support for diversification, including boosting especially the evening and weekend economies, and how we develop digitally and use some of that data. The purpose of this is supporting business diversification and digital development, really to widen the appeal and reach more residents so they become regular users of the village centre. These are the words that people used to sum up their sentiments out of the village at the moment. And there's some great words in there like busy and friendly. but we want to see less of the tired and adequate. So if we did this survey going forward in 2 years' time, what are the words that we'd like to see completely dominating this word cloud? Here are some key findings of the survey relating to the village's identity and how we might want to strengthen its brand. And it's important to see that despite recent improvements, more people think that the village has worsened over recent times as improved. And obviously that's something we'd like to change. We also need to focus on the fact that over the half of the people surveyed, when we ask them when they work, they're not working locally. And so the only time they can access the village is going to be in the evenings and the weekends. And we can see that businesses recognize more than anything the importance of local customers. There may be benefits of attracting visitors, but dominantly they want to reach out to people living locally. This slide just emphasizes again some of the more of the detail that we have 58% of the people who were surveyed who are not working locally, and so the village is probably not benefiting from their spending power or necessarily giving them all that they need. So we need to maybe focus on how we can make things more available. This slide gives you a bit more detail about how people we surveyed online who may be less frequent users of the village centre and people we served on street, how they feel their experience of Sherburn has changed over recent times. Here are some survey findings relating to opportunities to diversify the business mix. And for me, the 2 points that stand out of this information are the first and the last. There's a relatively low proportion of cafes and restaurants compared to places of its size, and that increasing that variety of cafes, pubs and restaurants is customers' highest priority for the village in future. The good news from this slide, which was developed pre-COVID, is that compared to villages and towns of its size nationally, more businesses in Sherburn are confident of the future. Now, it may be relevant and interesting to ask that question again now. And here's some detail about comparing that representations of cafes and restaurants compared to towns typically across the country. And you can see that there's perhaps the opportunity for more provision in the village centre to make it a social hub, a place for people to come and mix, socialise, and not just during the daytime working hours. Lastly, here's some information about the appetite amongst businesses and shoppers to improve digital activity in the village centre, and that's in terms of the right infrastructure, digital phone signals, Wi-Fi, but also what might be the services that then businesses, service providers can provide so that everybody living locally can get the very most out of the village. Here's more details showing that appetite for digital development from village users, and what you can see just looking at the bottom bars on this chart is that insights through social media or business or town websites, there's an appetite for further development of this so that again people know what's going on and they can enjoy and benefit from that. So my penultimate place to pause is to ask you what you feel about the themes of this group, the organisations that are represented. Do you know of organisations that understand events, understand marketing, want to promote digitally and that should be involved? So who's represented? Where can we find that new blood, those new organisations that very much are thinking digitally, are thinking of the modern uses of the village centre so that we're forward looking and dynamic in how we respond to this? Wrapping up things here, I just want to again draw from that summary document that you can download to say how we must remain focused on bringing about change. So we saw the issues. These are some targets and measures that we may look to use to monitor how we're progressing and to demonstrate positive change in a couple of years' time. So that's our thoughts on themes and working groups and how a partnership may come together to help revitalise and reinvigorate the way we work to improve the village centre. Be very interested to hear your views, either coming through groups that you're involved with or contacting us directly. I leave you with this last place to pause for thought, and that's creating a future mood board for the village. So if we ask people in a few years' time, what were the images and experiences that summed up the village, what would we like to see them come back with? And if we can bear that in mind now and understand that, then we can start using this approach and these images and these ways of promoting the village from the beginning. So again, let us know your thoughts through groups that you're involved with or directly telling us by the link to our website. So thank you for taking the time to listen and to understand what's involved in creating a forward framework to hopefully respond to the current crisis and also to safeguard and revitalise Sherburn and Elmet Village Centre going forward. At the bottom of this page, once again, is a link to resources. You can download more information and you can also contact us with your thoughts. Thank you very much.